Welcome to another inspiring episode of the Elite Expert Insider Podcast. Hosts Melanie Johnson and Jenn Foster are the owners of Elite Online Publishing. They're both Wall Street Journal, USA Today best-selling authors. We're really glad you're here because this podcast was designed for you. Meet industry experts that share their secrets and strategies. Get successful results for your business in money, relationships, health, and your life. Each episode is going to inspire you to take action towards reaching your greatness.
Hello and welcome. All right, the economy is crashing around us. You're getting doom and gloom on the news every day. How do we succeed? How do you kind of make those highs and lows of cash flow even out for you? How do you have the mindset to propel yourself forward in this economy and keep making money and have confidence to charge more for your business? We're going to answer that and a whole lot more today. We have David Neagle with us today. He is an expert at this, has written books on it, and we're going to help you make money today. Join us. Thanks for coming today, David.
No, my pleasure. Great to be here. Thank you.
Great. Well, David, tell us a little bit about how you were a high school dropout and now you have a seven-figure business and help others have
Tell you a little bit
businesses.
about that, 23 years worth.
Tell us the whole thing.
I mean, so, it's one of those stories where my parents got divorced when I was young. Mom and dad were busy in their own lives. We kind of raised myself on the streets of Chicago and was very much headed in the wrong direction. Not in it like I was doing bad things, but just completely lost. Didn't know what to do, not having good advice. Quit high school, got married, had a couple kids, and found out that I was creating more responsibility than I had the ability to fulfill. Because I didn't have the skills, I didn't have an education to be able to get a job beyond working on a dock, and I was driving a forklift. And during that process, I started to wake up. And as I started to wake up, I realized I had made wrong decisions, but now I wanted to fix them. But I was in a jam. I didn't have the money or the time to go back to school, right? This is all pre-internet. So you had to go to a community college or something if you wanted to get any kind of an education. And I was working 6.5 days a week, and we were still on welfare at 6.5 days a week. I mean, we were in bad shape. So I was just completely stuck. And after a period of 2 years, I started having these experiences where like my mind was telling me to try different things that I didn't understand. And one night it said, change your attitude. That was it. I got this message in my mind said, change your attitude. It was like an audible voice while I was working. It really was. I was having a mental breakdown. I was emotional. It was a wreck. And I started to look at what are the components of an attitude? Because I realized I had heard that even when I was a kid. The teachers would say to my parents, David's a smart kid, but he's got a terrible attitude with school. If he changed his attitude, he could probably get better grades. And they would say to me, go to your room and change your attitude until your next report card. But nobody ever showed me how to change these things. Yeah. So I started to dissect this while I'm working on this forklift. I'm like, what is an attitude? I came up with 3 things I wanted to change in my attitude. And I thought it was stupid. Like, I really thought this was a dumb thing. Like, how is this ever going to change this situation? I need to figure out how can I have more money and get more time. So that's where I was focused. When I did that, I said, I'm going to try this for a year, see if it makes any difference. In 30 days, my income tripled. It tripled. I went from $20,000 a year to $62,000 a year in 30 days. And I was so floored by the change that I was like, I got to find out how this happened. I don't understand how it happened. It doesn't make sense to me. Everybody said, David, you got lucky. Don't blow this like you've blown everything else. But I was like, I have to figure this out. So I started reading. I would go to the library and get books, biographies, whatever. And I found my way over time. And then I found mentors. And I studied for a period of about 7 years. And I started coaching other people. And then I decided I wanted to make this my career. I was just so passionate about the information and what it could do if a person was really serious about changing their life. And that's literally what happened.
Man, and I see this happen so often, even especially in young people, where with the pandemic and everything that's happened, they get stuck in this rut and they don't know why their life's not changing. And you're right, it is about the attitude, but how do they take that first step, to change that attitude? You can't lock them in a room and just say, do it. And I keyed in that you said, find mentors, read and listen to good things. When you're working with business people, how do you get them to get past those blocks and get in the right mental state to bring that flow of income and cash to them to get to the millionaire 7-8 figure plus mindset? Do you have certain questions that you ask them? What exactly do you do?
Well, the first thing that we do is we get them to understand that the reality that they're creating is based on a lot of lies. It's a lot of non-truths, things that are not true, that we have all been taught are true, that we deal with in reality, and we literally create a life based on these ideas, but they're fundamentally not accurate. And when you understand how to replace those things, you find out that success is actually pretty darn easy. If you look at us biologically, we're born to be a success. All life is born to be successful. It's not born to fail. Human beings are the only species of animal that choose to fail out of ignorance. The only ones. So when we understand what that ignorance is, we can change it. And when we change it, we can change our results instantaneously. Very short period of time. You mentioned like the economic crisis that we're in. It's all BS. Like when people realize that it is all manipulated for the markets, and I'm like, this is constant. It's every 10 years we go through an economic crisis. Look at the history, right? All the way back to World War II. Every 10 years or so, we go through a major crisis. It's an up and down and correction in the markets, which has to happen in order to level everything out. But the problem is that it is sold to the public as fear, and there's actually nothing to be afraid about. If you understand how business works and you know what to do, you don't make mistakes by going into fear, and you proactively deal with it. I've been in business for 23 years. We've been through 3 major up and down cycles, and we've made money all the way through it, never gone backwards, ever. And neither have any of the people that I've worked with in their businesses. And it's not some major trick. It's understanding what's real and what's not real. And how do you proactively move forward when something goes down? Because that's the cycle of life. We have ups and we have downs, right? You don't have to be a victim to the downside. You have to know how to do things differently in a downside. That's it.
Right. I love that you said be proactive, because I think automatically, and the fear and things that people are telling you makes you want to retract and not do anything.
It does. It scares
and
the hell out of
especially in your
people.
head, right? Not just activity, but in your head, you're like, oh, I shouldn't do that, or it's risky, or this or that or the other.
Right.
When it should be doing the opposite, which is proactive, actually doing things, getting your mindset shift so that you have that positivity and knowing that it's not a risk, it's an investment, or whatever it is that you're looking at doing.
Well, let me give you, for instance, in our coaching groups right now with the clients that we have, they're all business people. And I've been teaching them, okay, listen, it's obvious we're headed for a down cycle. It's going to happen. It's not if it's going to happen, it will happen. This is the history. And you have to understand that if you start thinking about this as a good thing, you'll start seeing the opportunity in it, and you won't be restricting yourself, which is what causes all the problems. Every time there's a down cycle, it makes millionaires out of all kinds of people that know what to do when there's a down cycle. And it's not preying off anybody or taking away. It's about adding value where value needs to be added, but you have to understand how to see where that is.
So the down cycle, you're saying if you know what to do in the down cycle. So
Right.
What are the things you telling your clients to do in the down cycle? Is it invest more like, hey, stocks are down, now's the time to jump in? Is real estate up, but should you still be going into hard assets? What are you telling them to do?
So the first thing is that usually in a down cycle, what everybody wants to do is hold on to their cash. And that's one of the worst things that they can do, right? They have to understand because the up and down is an idea, right? It's only real if you cash out, okay? If you cash out, then you've got a problem. But for business people, well, the first thing that we talk about them is ask yourself this question. You have a market that you market to and that you sell. How is this downside going to affect them? How is it going to cause them to either restrict their buying or purchasing or move forward with it? And when you begin to understand how it's going to psychologically affect them, emotionally affect them, you can come up with ideas that will help them through that so that you can continue having business come to you, even though you go in a down cycle. In 2008, 2009, when everything came to a screeching halt, it didn't hit my industry till about mid-2009. And then one day business just stopped for everybody in my industry. And we looked at it, and the first thing that we did was we called our customers and we said, why have you stopped buying? And overwhelmingly, the answer was because they cut our credit in half. So it wasn't that they didn't want to buy. It was that the banks cut everybody's credit in half and they couldn't buy. So what we did was we adjusted our programs and how much they cost so that they could buy within the limits of the credit that they actually had available. And the business started right back up as if it never went down, right? So if you understand what's happening and how it's affecting other people, you can adjust to that so that you can continue to do business and they can. Because the truth is this, even when we go into a down cycle, people don't stop buying. They'll tell you, right? There's shortages of this, shortages of that, but everybody buys stuff every day. We all do. We have to. So it's not going to stop. It's just that there's going to be a lot of fear in a place where there doesn't need to be fear. There needs to be education.
Yeah. I like how you say adjust, and you really have to pivot and adjust. How do you get your mindset in that instead of just feeling like, oh, it's doomsday and, we have to change. Oh, I hate changing.
Yeah.
How do you get your mindset into that so you can pivot and adjust when there is times like that? You have to do that.
That's a really great question. And my honest belief is that people have to come to an understanding that all of this is made up and controlled to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
It's not some mystical thing that's happening that affects all these people on random issues and situations. It's being created by human beings that are making decisions to control the way markets go up and down. And if you look at it historically, you see how true that is. It's not somebody just saying it. It's our history. It's a history in the United States. It's a history in Europe and Australia and basically in every free country. So when you understand that it's being created, that it's part of how we do business, you begin to take the mystery out of it. And you're like, okay, now I can think more scientifically or rationally about this. So then you start to look at what are the truths. The truths are, okay, so the cycle's going down, it makes inflation go up, makes prices go up, but people don't actually stop buying that much. They may be a little more discerning about what they buy, but if you understand how to adapt to it so that they can say yes, you don't run into that problem. So it's about pivoting and one of the great things is so many people learned to pivot during COVID that have never had to do that before. Yeah. They start to understand how to do it now. So I think there will always be victims in a situation like this, but we need to understand that the victims are based in ignorance. It's not based in anything other than we have a mass population that does not understand what's actually happening. And of course, if you're in a job where you cannot control your income, you do have a problem. You do have a problem, right? So, and one of the things that we teach people is that you should have some income. If you're not in business, you should have something in your income where you can control how much you're making. And today, more than ever, we see people that have side hustles and all kinds of stuff where people didn't do that before. People would have a second job. But because of technology, we have the ability to figure out different ways of making money today, which is really fantastic in my mind.
And I love how you say, people pivoted during COVID, but isn't it interesting? No one pivoted until they had to.
That's
it's
right.
Like, gee, you should be offering online service. You should be offering ordering online. And they, later. But until they were forced to do it, the baseball bat came out and cracked them across the head. They didn't do that. I want to ask you about, money is a tool. Like, is cash trash? Should we be putting it somewhere? What should our philosophy and positions be on money and cash?
Well, see, this is the thing. I think that it depends on what a person's risk to reward ratio is in their mind, right? How intelligent are you as far as risk goes? And if you understand how markets work, how real estate works, you don't make emotional decisions. Like if you go take a class on either investing in the stock market or the real estate, one of the first things that they tell you is don't be emotional about your investments. Mm-hmm. Really look at what's actually happening so that you make sound decisions. So I think if a person already knows how to do that, they're probably okay. If they don't, they should get with somebody that does so that they're not making emotional decisions. Because one of the worst things that you could do is once everything crashes, then you pull your money out and you've lost so much that you can't recoup. So the idea is, how long can I ride this out based on how it's personally affecting you?
I love that. I think that's really good because I think a lot of times people aren't looking at it. They're only looking at emotional buy because that's what we do. We're human. We do emotional buy, but looking at it in a smart, scientific way is a way better.
Right.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about, you have a podcast. What is that all
The
about?
Successful Mind Podcast. The Successful Mind Podcast. Yeah. And what we talk about is how your mindset actually affects your business and your finances and your life on that podcast. That's all that podcast is about. And we teach people how to think based on real world activities that people are experiencing every day, including their business and how other activities that are happening, whether it's political or has to do with COVID or whatever, how it affects them making decisions in their business. And we try to give them advice on how to think accurately that best serves them in the direction that they want to go in their life.
Give us some tips of how we should think. Like, what are some of the things that you're telling us? Like, so we have action items that we can practice homework of how we should be thinking.
So one of the best tips is to not let fear control your thinking and always make decisions on the direction that you want to go. The biggest mistakes that people make in business is when they make a decision based in fear or based on what they don't want to experience. So usually they're letting the lack of money, so to speak, control their decision. There is no lack of money. Money is a resource like anything else. If you believe that there's a lack, you'll behave as if there is one. And of course, you will then reap the consequences of that. So the first thing is to understand that everything moves in the direction for more life. Decide what you want, not what you don't want, and always move in the direction of what you want, and you'll make much smarter decisions. And ask for help if you don't know. Don't guess. It's not a place to guess because everything is designed against you, so to speak. I was listening to Ray Dalio the other day in an interview, who guy is absolutely amazing. And he's always talking about, like, you're competing with the best in the world the moment you step into the stock market. It's not designed to make you rich. It's designed to take your money. But if you don't know that, you walk into it like you are a Vegas casino and you're gambling. You're using chance and luck and hope. And that is no place to bring that kind of a superstition into the marketplace with your money. You're gambling with your life when you do that.
Yeah. I think it's great that you're talking about the mindset shift and the way that you think, because like you said, success leaves clues and we don't need to reinvent the wheel, right?
That's right.
And money does flow and it is abundant. You can just walk outside and see that there's abundance everywhere with the spring now and the leaves and everything and flowers. It's abundance everywhere, and that includes money. So I love how you
absolutely.
say that.
Yeah. Well, tell us, David, where can we find you and get more information?
I think the best place for people to kind of see what I'm about is to go to the Successful Mind Podcast and have a listen. That's a completely free platform. We give all of our best stuff there. And if they want more information, we let them know there how they can get more information. But that's a great place to start.
Oh, perfect. So we'll put that up in the show notes, the Successful Mind Podcast.
That's right.
You can check out David there.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us today, David, and share this podcast with your friends. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. And if you're thinking about writing a book, remember, we guarantee all our authors hit #1 bestseller, and we help you write your book from the beginning with our special VIP day. So contact us at Elite Online Publishing and hit that submission button, and have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.